You may end up wondering why your road trips really suck. The morning mist clouds up your windows and you can't see out the window. Even if you could go on a road trip, you're still at work. But in today's video, we're going to show you the top 10 places in the United States that you must visit. Now, I've only been to about 27 states, so these places are all based off of my personal travels, and there's still a lot left for me to see out there. But of all the places I've gone to, these are 10 places that I really enjoyed going to. I would love to go back to again. I'm going to almost paraphrase a few songs on this video to make this more interesting. So if you realize something sounds familiar, make a comment and let me know what it sounds like to you. Some of y'all act like you never seen a Cuban before. He didn't just say that, did he? You might wonder why we make these videos. They got the Discovery Channel, don't they? Number 1 is the Colorado Mountains. When I first went to the mountains, my life was far away, and after a few days here, I couldn't breathe the proper way. So before you visit Colorado, make sure you prepare properly because the elevation sickness will get to you. But this is definitely the number 1 place that I would recommend you go to if you're traveling across America. So if you're sitting on a pocket full of hard-earned wages, looking at the world through magazine pages, trying to discover where you're going to go next, consider Colorado Ranges. So if you've never been to where the rock meets the timberline, I definitely recommend a trip to Colorado. You don't have to wait till December to see the snow. You can go to Colorado, where the air is so thin you'll have to put a canister to your mouth. If you've ever been here, you know what I'm talking about. I got something else to tell you about the new snow town. Number 2 is Greetings from Michigan. Michigan's Upper Peninsula, to be exact. If you want a place that's scenic and relaxing, consider the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, where people are dancing on the streets. This isn't the panic in Detroit. This is a slower pace of life. As you guys may know, I am married to a pretty girl from Michigan. We made it past the highway patrolman and found ourselves in one of the most beautiful places in the United States. Life is beautiful, especially in Michigan. So if you're going from the D to the A, put respect on it. The Upper Peninsula of Michigan is absolutely one of the most beautiful places in the United States. I would definitely consider a 4x4 vehicle. So if you've been dreaming about rolling hills and you need to get out and see nature, consider Michigan's Upper Peninsula in a 4-wheel drive vehicle where you can go off-road and see some of the most beautiful places in the United States. Number 3 is the Florida Keys. One of the most beautiful tropical getaways you can do within the United States. The tide is high, but I'm holding on. You're going to be in a place where you're going to forget about the worries about the rest of your life. When you come down to the Florida Keys, you're surrounded by blue turquoise waters, some of the best Caribbean food you're going to find, in particular Cuban. And it really is a place like no other. If you're thinking about a tropical getaway and you don't want to leave the United States, I definitely recommend the Florida Keys. With boating, fishing, other water activities, but just hanging around and enjoying the vibes from Key West to Key Largo, and one of my favorite, the island of Marathon. There's so much to do here that it is definitely a vacation that you must do if you haven't got around to it yet. I definitely recommend that you take the time to get on the water and see what's living in these tropical oceans. Sea turtles and sharks. Moving on to number 4, New York City. I don't know what Delilah told you about New York City. A lot of people told me so much about New York City before I actually went there. And it's a place you just need to go to for yourself and experience it. I heard so many horrible things about the city, and most of it was misinformation. It is a great place to visit, and while I don't think it should be the first place you see within the United States if you're traveling from abroad, because most of the United States is rural and mountainous and desert. There's so many landscape in the United States for you to see. New York City is the most urban place you can go to, and it really is a school on life in the United States. And it doesn't represent the United States as a whole. So if you've never been to the United States and you go straight to New York City, it probably isn't the only place you should visit. But if you've never been there, It's a place you must visit. You'll pay a lot of tolls and learn that nothing's free in America. Moving on to number 5, the New Mexican Desert. This is one of the most isolated places that I've been to in the United States, a far contrast from New York City. This makes a better road trip than a fly to destination, since at the end of the day there's practically nothing out here. As is typical for places that are ridiculously boring, their food is usually the best, and New Mexico is no exception. The food we had in New Mexico was incredible. The first thing I met was a homeless man with a sign. I was on a horse with no name, because in the desert there's no one to give you no fame. The heat is hot and the ground is dry, and that's a very strange contrast when you're coming from touching snow in Colorado. It felt good to be in the desert for the first time, and even though I couldn't remember my name, I still did it. Strange landscape like no other. Moving on to number 6, the Ozarks cover a region of Arkansas and Missouri. It is a mountainous area with beautiful lakes, some of the most beautiful landscaping and vegetation you'll find in the entire country. A place where you can really relax and just slow life down. There's a yearning in my heart to be going to that 40-acre patch. Arkansas, are your rivers still flowing? Is your cotton growing white as snow? Are those squirrels still barking? Are your rednecks still fighting, drinking beer all day on a boat trying to catch a dang bass, Arkansas? Is that what's going on here? The natural beauty of this area is unique, and I definitely recommend that you visit Arkansas, in Hot Springs in particular. It's a mostly tourist type city, but it's a nice contrast to get away from the natural settings. I definitely recommend you visit this part of the country. Number 7 is the Pennsylvania Amish country. The only song I know related to this topic is Weird Al Yankovic, Amish Paradise. As I walk through the valley where I harvest my grain, I take a look at my wife and realize she's very plain. However, the beauty of this part of Pennsylvania isn't. I definitely recommend, if you're going to New York City or heading east to west across this part of the country, that you slow it down a little bit and just take in some of the natural beauty, get off the highways and go off into the small towns, and get to see one of the most beautiful places in the United States that a lot of people bypass. So many people get to see the southern part of Appalachia to the point where it's almost played out, but don't forget, there's a whole lot more to the Appalachian mountain range, and there's beautiful areas heading all the way into upstate New York, Pennsylvania. It's definitely a relaxing, slow-paced vacation, but one worth doing. Number 8 is the Great Smoky Mountains. Between Tennessee and North Carolina are some of the most scenic mountain ranges on the eastern side of the United States. Tourists are definitely not strange in this part of the country, and for a lot of people in Florida, going up here every year is a must-do vacation to get away from the heat and humidity during the summer.
Corn won't grow at all on Rocky Top. They're still rocking by far. That's why all the folks on Rocky Top get their corn from a jar.
This area is actually pretty expansive, going as far into Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, North Carolina, and West Virginia. This whole Appalachian mountain range is beautiful, and if you have the time to explore it, it's definitely worth a visit. Some of these beautiful scenic areas even stretch into the state of Virginia, a must-do vacation if you haven't done it yet. Moving on to number 9, the Florida Panhandle coast. This is a travel destination that millions of people in the United States do every single year. From the South, Texas, Oklahoma, they head into the Florida beaches. I definitely recommend that you see this part of the state. And while a lot of people in the Mid-South see this part of Florida, a lot of people in the southern and central part of the state have never ventured into the Florida Panhandle. So if you've never done it, what I recommend is that you go from Pensacola Beach to Mexico Beach all along the coast. In 2 to 3 days, you should be able to see everything from forts to beautiful beaches to incredible beach destinations. Forts, beaches, awesome places to party, from Panama City Beach all the way to beautiful places like Rosemary Beach. elegant places like Sunnyside, all of it is there in the Florida Panhandle. All right, number 10 is St. Augustine, Florida, the oldest city by the Europeans in the United States, is a place you absolutely must visit. The Castillo de San Marcos was built by the Spaniards, and it is an incredible experience to be inside a structure that is that old in a city that has been continually inhabited for so long in the United States. The city feels like it belongs somewhere in Spain more than it does in America. It is definitely a travel destination you must go to, and if you like fishing, fishing in the area is enjoyable. You have Vilano Beach and many other destinations nearby, and it's just outside of a large city, that being Jacksonville. So these are the 10 places I definitely recommend you visit if you're just starting your travels across America. And while it may burn a hole in your pocket, it will definitely make some beautiful memories to travel and see the beauty of the United States.